Greetings. Welcome to ITR Live. I'm your host, Chris Hagenow, and we are back in the Hendrickson Library at the Center for the Preservation of Western Civilization at ITR World Headquarters in Central Iowa. Got the Professor John Hendrickson and myself here today, ready to thrill and excite you on another episode of the gold standard in Iowa conservative entertainment. John, are you ready to go?
I am, yes, yeah.
Good. Let the music run a little long there. But yeah, it's been a while. We've been, yours truly has been negligent in getting back up here on the microphone.
I just thought it was your Roto-Rooter business.
They ran me out of town on that. I'm so busy because sewers are back.
Yeah.
Harkening back to the long ago on our last episode when we had some fun with the Des Moines Register editorial board for saying that if we do anything with property taxes, our sewers are going to back up. So anyway, yes, okay. Well, we've got I think a lot of ground to cover, but we will see. We had one of those pre-production meetings today, John, where we kind of went through what we're going to talk about and then finally just said, to heck with it, let's just roll and see what happens.
Yes, yeah.
And sometimes those end up really well, and sometimes they're miserable failures, but we're going to see where we go today. We're going to talk a little bit about the governor's race today, a little bit about what's going on in the legislative session, which is interesting. There's just a wide variety of stuff, maybe not a ton of action on property taxes right now. I got one. We're going to get to trivia in just a second. So I have a news item that we didn't even talk about in pre-production, John. Or maybe we did. I can't remember if we brought it up. So did you see that the Coca-Cola Company, which owns Minute Maid orange juice, is no longer going to sell the frozen concentrates that you buy in a tube?
I saw that last night. I was bothered by that, actually.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I
mean, that's how I grew up. We didn't have any of this fancy just buying it in a jug or a can or anything. So, what do you think about that?
I don't like it because that's, I still like the frozen lemonade and frozen orange juice.
You idiots! Get back in there at once and sell!
I wasn't quite sure where to put that. Like, I worked on that. That was the bulk of the pre-production for me was trying to add that to our sound pads over here. And yet, there we go. I was, because I wanted to see your reaction. That's what I think about it. I really don't care. I just wanted to work in the quote from Trading Places.
They tried to corner the frozen orange juice market.
What are Randolph and Mortimer gonna do? I can't even get back in on the frozen orange juice market.
Did you know they had a picture of Herbert Hoover on their desk?
I did know that, John. Now I think that's actually something you shared with me a long time ago. So no, it's very good, but it is interesting. I mean, they say it's changing, market trends and all that. I don't know. I can't remember the last time I would have even thought to drink orange juice that way. I mean, you just buy the jug of it, right?
Yeah, but and I always thought that people still use that. I mean, for example,
idiots, get back in there at once and sell.
All right, sorry.
No, I love the Dukes.
Okay, good.
But
you know what? And John, it just fits. You could have been the third Duke brother.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
But I can't give away the secret family recipe, but we have a Christmas punch.
Okay.
It's non-alcoholic, but two of the ingredients are frozen Minute Maid orange juice and frozen Minute Maid lemonade.
I'd imagine there's other producers that can get that for you. But anyway, it's kind of interesting. All right, trivia, John. What do you got for us?
Yes. So I didn't have one last time, so I apologize to the listeners. But our question today actually took place back in 1937 on February 5th. And so Franklin Roosevelt just came off of a landslide victory in 1936 in the presidential election, and he sent a historic bill to Congress on February 5th in 1937. It created a firestorm debate. The Senate Majority Leader at the time, Joe Robinson, led the fight in favor of this bill. At that time, the Senate was not air-conditioned, and so as a sweltering Senate chamber, Robinson argued so much and drove the debate so long that when he got home, he was so exhausted and from stress and heat that he actually dropped dead.
Oh, wow.
And then after lengthy debate, several days of debate, the controversial measure that Roosevelt had finally failed, and the progressive Republican from California, the Senator Hiram Johnson, screamed out, "Glory be to God," when it failed. So we're looking for what was the bill that was defeated.
That's interesting.
And that Roosevelt introduced on February 5th, 1937, one of the more famous bills in our history, at least in the 20th century.
But it failed.
But it failed, yeah.
Oh, I think I know.
Yeah. And it's actually, and just to give a hint to our listeners, it's actually an issue that that then President Joe Biden resurrected.
Yep, I know what it is. Not going to spoil it. Yep, I knew it before you gave that hint, too. Wow, I feel good. Let's go. I got a trivia today. Okay, good. Well, you got it, folks. Let John know if you got an answer to trivia question. Another thing that's been interesting since the last time that we convened here behind the microphones, John, you had a high-profile speaking opportunity this week.
I did, yes. Yeah.
So that was great. What? Tell us about it.
Yeah, on Tuesday I was invited to speak to the Iowa MAGA Nation group, and I spoke on a topic of property taxes, and I do have to apologize to our listeners because I misspoke, and I was trying to do a plug for our show, the gold standard of podcasts, and I accidentally referred to this as ITR Local, and we're ITR Live, and so I apologize to our listeners, and one listener
caught me
yes,
in real time was like, you can't let that stand.
Yeah, and so I apologize for that mistake, and I just was confused with so many of our.
To be fair, it was a little bit. It's a big crowd, which leads to this, and it's in a kind of a sports bar, restaurant kind of place, and it was loud and a lot going on. So I mean, I will extend grace this first time on that error, but don't let it happen again. But no, it was fine. You did a great job, but that's a big group. And I would say it was interesting. The plural of anecdote is not data, but it is refreshing to see some grassroots enthusiasm, high turnout, because I think the media would rather have you believe that enthusiasm only exists on the left right now.
That's right, yeah.
And that would show up in public opinion polls, which I think many people on the conservative side don't trust those public opinion polls. But yes, there's a lot of people there. John, you gave great comments. I had kind of hoped that at the 11th hour they would ask me to introduce you somehow because I had that all teed up. It was going to be great. So following you was Senator Mike Buslow and then former State Representative Joe Mitchell, who's running for Congress in the 2nd District. I had tried to tee up Senator Buslow to sort of have some fun with you. You did on the Minnesota stuff. That was good.
Called me a political refugee.
Right. But, I told Senator Buslow that, look, that crowd needs to know that you are old school America First. I'm not sure these folks know it. We've talked about it here on the show sometimes. But all these folks running around thinking they're America First, they don't understand what America First really means, do they, John?
No.
And I was kind of hoping you'd get up there on the microphone and start ranting and raving about how Trump had sold us out on trade policy or something. But you were restrained.
I was tempted.
Okay.
Yeah, I was tempted to just switch topics and.
I will say this, John. I am going to start because I like branding us and branding you as certain things. You are the intellectual powerhouse, the heavyweight, the center of gravity for the America First philosophy in the state of Iowa. No, I mean that.
Yeah.
I mean that. Like that. If someone wants to understand what and why and where it came from. You're the one that can tell that story.
I appreciate that, yeah.
So anyway, that's your new,
yeah.
In addition to being the chairman of the Center for the Preservation of Western Civilization, you are also now the, intellectual, philosophical North Star, as it were, for America First in the state of Iowa.
Yes, yeah.
All right, great.
I'm honored to be that. So
good.
Yes,
well, if I have decreed it, then so shall it be.
Yes, yeah.
All right, we're going to catch up. We're going to get a little bit into what's going on at the Capitol. A little bit of political stuff just to refresh things. I don't know if I necessarily want to call it well, there's been some movement. in a couple of the congressional races in Iowa. You were talked about at the Amalgamation rally. Joe Mitchell got the endorsement of President Trump this week.
Yes, yep.
So I had a chance to visit with Joe a little bit at the event, and he's really excited. He feels like he's got a lot of momentum, and certainly getting a Trump endorsement matters a lot in that race. We saw that Representative Shannon Lundgren dropped out of that race, and I think she's going, if I remember right, he's going to run again for the House. And then in the 4th district, President Trump also endorsed Chris McGowan of Sioux City in that race, and we'll see where that goes. I know that I think McGowan was the fundraising leader in the last period too. So we'll see what happens in those races. But whether folks like it or not, getting a Trump endorsement matters a lot in a Republican primary in the state of Iowa. Where there has not been a Trump endorsement is in our gubernatorial race. And Trump was even in town and has yet to do anything on that. I'm not quite sure what direction to go on this, but there are a lot, I've seen a lot, and I think you've seen this too, John, in social media about some straw polls that were held on caucus night this last week. And I guess anytime there's any sort of a straw poll or measure, it's interesting because we're all interested to know what's going on with this race. Did you see all this, John, the different straw polls?
I did, yes, yeah.
Now, what I've heard from people is they were disappointed they didn't get to participate one in their own.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here in central Iowa, Polk and Dallas didn't do that. I wasn't real close to this. My understanding is that was not a sanctioned Republican Party of Iowa effort. It was just that some counties sort of I don't want to necessarily say at the 11th hour, decided to hold these. So I don't even really know what the format was, how they did it. But there were, I think in most of these where they were held, it's low turnout. These midterm caucuses, low turnout. But it looked like Adam Steen did very well where these were being held. Did my phrasing that right?
Yes, no, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah.
And as Adam should, he's been really promoting that. Now, I think what's probably equally interesting in the state of the race is he has also gotten endorsements lately from Bob Vanderplatz and Steve Deace. Mm-hmm. And I've seen a lot of work from Deace on his social media, and I think he's even doing some barnstorming tours with Adam Steen. So I think that Adam can justifiably claim some momentum right now on those.
I agree, and not that I'm, traveling the state, but I mean the discussions I've had.
You made it to West Des Moines for Amalgamation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But in my, the conversations I've had with base conservative Republicans, right now he's the one who's getting the most attention.
Yeah. Look, there is no question that the universe of voters that show up to an off year or midterm caucus on a February night is not representative of all Iowa Republican primary voters. And it is a very core activist, more conservative, more plugged in than the rest of the voting population. There's a lot of Iowa Republican primary voters out there that probably still don't know who any of these people are.
Yes, yeah.
And so I say that to just remind everyone, and I've said this before, and I don't enjoy saying it, but the money matters. And right now, Congressman Feenstra has a lot more money than anybody else in this race. And you have to have money to introduce yourself to voters through mail and TV and digital advertising. And so now I don't know what the net of that is, but it's yes, you had this enthusiasm and this momentum here, and that may lead to what you want that to see if you're somebody like Adam Steen, is you want to see that lead to more fundraising opportunities so that you can get into that mix, and it may do that. I don't know, but I guess I just kind of wanted to cover all of that. Anything else on all that?
No, I think the other aspect is just the we're seeing, I think his approach is more of a kind of reminds me of like Santorum did with the retail politics approach during the presidential caucus. I forget which year, where he kind of came in from behind.
I think he did well he ran a couple times. I think he ran an 8 and
was it 12? Yeah, and
I think that's right.
So I mean, there's that factor too, and I still think a lot of Republicans are undecided.
Yeah,
they just right now they're still looking at all the candidates.
It still is interesting to me that there are multiple candidates that are running very active campaigns. We haven't talked about lately about Zach Lane, who has had a very strong fundraising report. At least has the ability to self-fund quite a bit. And Brad Sherman, who has a strong grassroots following and did raise some money, more than I think some people would have expected him to. And when you have all these people running active campaigns, I think it leads to a greater number of undecideds.
Yes.
It's easier to decide when you get down to a binary choice. So that's interesting. I get a lot of people asking me what if I think this could go to convention. And I wanted to take a moment to sort of kind of remind people how that works. Is that if no one gets to 35% in the primary, then the convention decides, which is why the caucuses were important, because the convention is the Republican State Party Convention, which is, I believe, held in June, maybe July. I don't remember. No, might even be. It's sometime a few months from now. Okay, whatever. Hopefully the earlier the better. Well, it certainly has to be after the primary, doesn't it? Yeah. So anyway, and then those delegates to that Republican state convention would then pick, and they would vote and go through that process. The more candidates running active campaigns, the greater the likelihood that not one of them gets to 35%. I think somebody's going to get to 35% in this race. I think it is pretty rare that you can get there, but we will see. The biggest one that has been around in my time in Iowa politics was when now State Representative David Young won at a nominating convention back in, I think it was 14, maybe. It's getting to be a blur, John. I can't pull the dates out anywhere. But there were 5 or 6 candidates, and
that's right. Yeah.
And David rose through that, and it's an interesting part of the process. But I still think somebody's going to get to 35%. But I'll leave it at that. Anything else in the governor's race that's really struck you lately?
No, I just think it's starting to heat up with some of those endorsements. That so I think it's gonna. I think you're going to see more involvement, and of all the candidates are going to step up now, I think.
Yep. Okay, let's shift gears and let's run down some of the stuff that's going on in the Capitol right now. Is there anything that has surprised you in the last week or two, or really jumped out at you?
Well,
because there hasn't been to me. That's a trick question, John.
It has for me because this is still. I mean, it. From my perspective, this session has been a lot different than every other session that I've followed, and of course, I don't have as much experience at this than you do, but it just seems like it's starting to slow down a little bit, and we're not seeing as much bills being filed. But there's been some interesting bills, I think, that have been come up, especially in terms of higher ed. Reform, as well as both in terms of K-12 and so I'm interested in to seeing how that goes. I think how the debate over the 2 pipeline bills are going to go. I think it is going to be interesting how this because I still think that's a shadow over the whole session.
Oh, there's no question.
And certainly the governor yesterday announced the possibility of maybe a tobacco tax increase. What kind of reception will that get? That's been discussed before too. And so there's been some interesting ideas within legislation. So
if you're a junkie, our focus is on tax policy in our bills, and the House has passed their version of the property tax reform and the governor's bill as well. But this is the time in session when there's a ton of stuff out there, and something will seem crazy. I saw there was a bill on. I don't know what it was. It was I think it was an education committee bill. It might have had to do with civil rights or something that they were getting up and screaming and yelling. Well, wait a day, there'll be another one.
Yes, yep.
That's why you lose track of this. And so it's kind of fun to watch just the theatrics of it all.
Mm-hmm.
I as an aficionado of all of that. So that's all going on right now. I think right now the thing, it moves and it ebbs and flows throughout the session of what the big thing is. If you were a legislator up there, what are you being bombarded with right now? I think, or maybe even just what's consuming a lot of your time. I think you're right. I think the pipeline is just going to be hanging over all of that. I think there's going to be a lot of lobbying effort on behalf of this tobacco tax is the other one. The tobacco industry is well funded, as you may or may not have known, John. And so there'll be a lot of lobbying trying to end that. But I think right now is supplemental state aid within school funding, and so we will see that. I believe that the proposals are all around 2%, 1 3/4. I think the Senate was the lowest of the numbers this year.
Yep, that's right.
And that is, just as a refresher, every year the legislature, and the law sets forth that it should be done within the first 30 days, but since the legislature write the laws themselves, they can really kind of pass it whenever they want. But that's the number that is the amount by which schools can increase their funding. It is the state cost per pupil, which I think it's just shy of $8,000 per student per year, and then it would, if you, let's say you did 2%, then that number would, whatever that, extra $160 would get tacked onto that, to that amount. And then because of the way we get asked this question a lot too, John, with the education savings accounts, that's tied together because the educational savings amount, dollar amount, is pinned directly to what, it's because that's by nature, it's the dollars follow the student and so on and so forth. So anyway, so you'll see that'll probably get decided here relatively soon, and get that, and then that it's the big budget piece that gets decided early, and then because it's such a huge part of the state budget. But it'll be somewhere in there. And look, the budget's tight, and that's why there isn't more. I think some of the education lobby and advocates, I think we're asking for as much as 5% or something, which is just not workable right now. And fundamentally, Iowans aren't getting 5% raises right now. So
no.
Thoughts on supplemental state aid, SSA? We haven't followed it that much this year because I think we all sort of expected it to be in this range. Yeah,
and it'll be interesting because I know last session there was it took a little longer for them to come to a compromise on it. They were kind of fought it out, and it'll be interesting to see if they kind of settle on the 2% as the governor proposed, or if it will, if they'll take a while to come to an agreement on it.
Sometimes, at least in the last few years, there have been how the money is dispersed inside of it and other factors that have ended up sort of complicating things. It's tied to other things, the transportation money or some of those other pieces. Most of the fights in my time were really just about that top line dollar amount, is how much did one side or the other want to grow it by. I'm of the school of thought that we need to keep that number low. I think that's where I sense that a lot of conservatives are at, is that, one, those are taxpayer dollars, and in a time when taxpayers, and 2% is about the historical average right now too. But also is that we can't just, this has been the ongoing thing, we can't just keep throwing more and more money at it. And I get the education system costs money, we want the best out of it, but we all sort of think that maybe there's a better way to do this. So
yeah, and that's a good point. And just because you throw more money at something, and there's, you can look at other states, and doesn't mean you're going to get a better outcome. And I think that's been proven.
Right. But at the same time, I get it. Healthcare costs inside of that's right. Their fixed costs, even if they don't do anything different, are going up, and maybe more than 2%.
Yeah.
Now there's also things like enrollment growth that adds to the dollars. But anyway, I'm not not blind to that those costs are rising, but you see things like growth in administrators and growth in salaries outside of the classroom. And if I really wanted to just start dunking on them, we could talk about whether or not school superintendents are even American citizens here legally or not.
Yeah.
But
Yes. Yeah.
it is. I think most folks instinctively think that we could do a better job of deploying the current dollars that are invested in our education system than we do right now. But we're not an education policy shop either, and frankly, I'm not sure that I really want to get too deep into that.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'd rather just talk about tax policy.
Yeah.
Well, and other stuff sometimes, as I see fit.
That's right.
All right. Anything else going on, John?
No. I mean, I think, you got those, couple big issues that are just kind of looming and
the other one that we talked about, John, a little under the radar was this township trustees.
Yes. Yeah.
As for those of us that live in town, doesn't really seem like a thing, but maybe it's time to change how we administer government in these townships.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're from town, like these are the folks, the township trustee that is the guy that takes care of the cemetery, and you call when you've got a fence dispute or something, and he or she comes out, and in some of these areas, the same person has done it for 30 years or whatever. But I guess I've always thought those duties could be very easily administered simply by the county. Why can't the county board of supervisors hire somebody and take care of the cemetery? Why do we need more government and more elections? And that's something that I thought that Senator Buslow made the case when we were after you at the Amalgamation Rally. Just the number of people that we elect.
That's right. Yeah,
is too much in this state. And here in town, we elect the hospital trustees and the Soil Water Conservation Board and the community college. I don't know who these people are.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's unreasonable to expect the average voter to be educated in all those either. So, anyway, I'm all for combining some of these services when it makes sense.
There was another thing that I found interesting too was and again it's not in our wheelhouse, but was a bill that would make judicial elections more transparent. I think it was going through the House where voters could, in a sense, look at people who were on the ballot to be a judge, and you could, in a sense, learn more about them. Because I get a lot of people asking me sometimes, how do you learn more about those type of individuals on the ballot? And I can't remember the specifics of that legislation, but that was just one bill. That was a few weeks ago, I think.
Yeah. I will say this on the judicial retention elections. The Iowa State Bar Association has their plebiscite where they survey the attorneys every year to rate the judges. And it actually comes out with a lot of interesting results. There are judges that, the members of the bar don't care for and don't think. But anyway, there's one where I think the community around that actually does try and do a pretty good job of putting out information on, their thing. I'm not sure that the same can be said for every other board that we vote for, but that would be really helpful to do. I think we just elect too many people, but but anyway, I am that judicial retention. I'm all in favor of moving away from merit selection that we have, but those retention elections, I think, actually work pretty well. Good. Let's see. So SSA and that township bill. I guess I wanted to kind of close with this. This was sort of predictable. We had a flurry, a rush of activity on these property tax bills early on because it's a top priority. I think House, Senate, Governor all wanted to make a splash, talk about it, get in the media, set down their mark of where they're at. It was very much expected and normal for there to be less public focus on those bills for a while. Usually tax bills take place later in the year, not always, but that is a later in session. That's a March, April activity. I think that'll be the case this year. It for no other reason that the policy bills, you're seeing them all over the place. This is the time of session where that filter is wide open for all the ideas. And then as we move through this, that will narrow and the focus will turn to property taxes. So I don't want anyone to be discouraged that they haven't heard anything in the last week or two, at least a lot, about these property tax bills. They're absolutely working on it. They will continue to work through this, and I'm still very optimistic that we're going to get a good property tax bill out of the legislature this year.
Yes, yeah. I'll just add one more thing to that. It's interesting that I think the debate is forming around the 2% cap.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of the local government, not all of them, I mean, because there's some that have actually been in favor of it, but there's been a lot that have been vocal in the media that have basically, been sounding the alarms, again, talking about, it's going to result us in making hard decisions about fire and police. And this is what you heard from callers from...
Oh, it's fun. Come on.
Yeah,
I did River to River on public radio. It was a good time.
You had a lot of interesting callers from public radio that were challenging you about losing vital services.
You know what? That's it's all part of the process. I don't blame the pro government advocates. They're doing that's what they're supposed to do.
Yes, yeah.
And that's the way the process is supposed to work. It's folks on both sides and competing interests that come together, debate, work with the legislature, refine their ideas. One side may lose, you may find compromise in the middle, but yes, local governments should fight for their interests.
I just wish it was more fair, though, because, and I do give credit for public radio. They had you on.
I think they do a great job.
Yeah, but
I really do.
Like last night on Channel 8, they, I think it was last night or the night before, they had the Urbandale city manager and basically saying the 2% cap would create problems and yeah, but there was no second side to that story.
Yeah,
and so that I think that's, as Rush Limbaugh called it, the drive-by media. I mean, that's a little biased in my opinion.
Yeah, I will say, in defense of Channel 8, I think they've actually, I know some of the editorial decisions of what kinds of stuff they're covering, I've really enjoyed lately. They have been covering some stories that I've really enjoyed hearing from, and I actually think they're doing a pretty good job right now. But you're right. And that's not an advertisement that I want to be on TV every night, because I don't, but I'm happy to do it.
Yeah.
But yes, that's the case. The point being, there should be a healthy debate. If you are a city administrator, I'm sure that you would believe that no one should tell you how much to tax or how much to spend. You should be able to do that. We have a different opinion. We have a different vision, and those ideas should compete. Maybe the only part where I would disagree with myself on that point is how much taxpayer money is being sent to lobby against this pro-taxpayer measures.
Yes. Yeah.
You go up to the subcommittee hearing that we're at on the House property tax bill. There's a whole lot of lobbies in that building being supported with taxpayer money, and then me and maybe a couple others that are doing it off of private donations.
Yeah.
So, but that's the way the process works. Let's exchange ideas. Great. I'm all in.
That's right. Yeah.
Happy to do it.
Yeah. Good. And it's only natural for government and bureaucracy to defend their budgets.
That's
and
right.
That's what they're doing, and that's. There's a quote by Herbert Hoover that said government, it grows like a vegetable. I mean, it just has this natural tendency to expand. And
tastes the same, too.
Yes. That's right. Yeah.
Government tastes like broccoli.
Yeah. Yep.
Gross. Cauliflower. Something just absolutely intolerable. All right. That's a great place to wrap up, I think, John. Good job.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share with your family and friends. And with all of that, we will see you next time on ITR Live.